Hey guys, it's Brittany here with Frayed Knot Fibers, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do the single crochet. So I'm using my Hobby Lobby I Love This cotton yarn in the color Antique Gold and a 5mm crochet hook. I'll get started with putting a slip knot on my hook. I'll tighten that down just a little bit, but as always, I love to leave just a little bit of slack to where my yarn will slide up and down freely on my crochet hook. All right, so getting started, we're gonna go ahead and chain a foundation chain of 8. So there's 5, 6, 7, and 8. And actually what I'll do, as a general rule of thumb, a single crochet needs 1 turning chain. So I added 1 more. We have a total of 9 chains. And remember, we always count what's below our hook, not the active loop of yarn that's on our hook. So since we're starting out with a foundation row of 9, and for a single crochet, you always want to insert your hook into that second stitch. So we'll end up with 8 single crochet stitches for the row. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can insert your hook into the top of that loop, which is my preference. That's the way I like to do it. To me, it's just the easiest when you're working on your foundation row. You can also stick your hook into the bottom portion of the stitch, and I'm having a little bit of trouble here getting my hook in, but if you do that and you get it into the bottom portion of the stitch, you'll actually have 2 of the stitches on your hook in addition to, your active yarn. You can also flip your chain over, and on the back you have those little back bumps. I believe those are called purls of the stitch. Don't quote me on that, but you can also insert your hook into, in there to do the foundation row. If I insert right here, I end up in the back portion of the stitch just to show you, but that's not how I'm going to do it. So skipping the first stitch, I'm going to insert my hook into that second stitch from the hook. Then I'm going to grab my yarn, pull up a loop, and then I'm going to yarn over by bringing the yarn in front of my hook and pulling through both of those loops. So I'll slow it down just a little bit. You can see that that stitch is already worked there, so the next stitch will be to the very left of it, and I'm just going to insert my hook right into that stitch, grabbing that top loop. Then I'm going to bring the yarn in front of my hook, so yarn over, pull up a loop, and then I like to kind of slide it down a little bit, bring the yarn in front of my hook, yarn over, and pull through 2. All right, so there's 2 single crochets, and I'm just going to keep repeating the process, moving to the next stitch on the left. Of course, if you're crocheting left-handed, you'll be crocheting from left to right. Actually left-handed, but I crochet right-handed, so I'm moving right to left. All right, and let me just show you this again. We have a few stitches left. I'm just going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. It is that simple. Now, when you get toward the end, as you can see, I have just a couple of stitches left. It looks like 3 stitches left. The very last stitch can get a little lost. It can be hard to visualize, especially if you're a beginner, so I would just recommend to definitely count your stitches. That way you keep your work nice and straight and everything is correct as far as your practice swatch goes. So as you can see, we have 8 single crochets here. You can count the single crochets. If you can't identify them, you can always look at the top ridge of your work and count those little V stitches. They'll all be in line. So as you can see right here at the end, that's our original turning chain from the beginning. And since we've worked our complete row from right to left, we're going to need to build the height to get to our next row, which means we will need to create a turning chain of 1. So just chain 1 by yarning over and pulling through. So then we're going to go ahead and turn our work so that we're ready to work from right to left again. And we're working along this top ridge here. You can probably see the stitches. Just remember that this over here is our turning chain. So our first stitch is going to be right here. We're simply going to insert our hook, and you just want to make sure you grab both of the loops from your stitch, both of those V stitches at the top ridge of your work. You can easily identify them. So pull up a loop just as we did before, then yarn over and pull through 2. And there's our first stitch of our row. Our next stitch and subsequent stitches are pretty apparent, and we're just going to keep going by inserting our hook, making sure both of those loops are on our hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So we're just going to keep going, working from right to left or left to right if you're crocheting left-handed. keeping up the same motions. Now, this does get pretty repetitive, so just keep up the practice. It'll get easier, and it does become muscle memory. So, the more you practice, the better you will get, and you'll improve your skills a lot quicker the more you practice. So coming up here on the end, you can see we have 2 stitches left. Insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and this last stitch, which can get kind of lost, but trust me, it's there, is right there under that top loop, that top ridge of loops. Just make sure you've got both of those V stitches on your hook. Like I said, they can be kind of hard to see, but you should be able to see them if you just look hard enough. All right, so then we'll just yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops to get the top corner of our second row. So there we have it, it's done, and it looks really, really pretty. Now normally to continue our row, we just want to chain up 1 and turn our work for the single crochet. However, I just want you to take a minute to notice these 2 loops that are on our active yarn. Now, once we chain up 1, that's going to change to 1 loop on our active yarn. And I know that seems like kind of a minute detail, but I feel like it's those little details that are important that help us to better understand what we're doing, especially if we have to put down our work and come back later. So speaking of coming back to your work after some time has passed, I just want you to know that if you have to reinsert your crochet hook into this active yarn, just note that you really need to pay attention to make sure you insert it the right way. And what I mean by this is when you pull on your yarn, the active yarn, see how it's rolling in front of my hook right here? That's the way you want it to be. You don't want that active yarn rolling toward the back side of your hook. And I don't know if that makes much sense, but it's a super important small detail. Well guys, before you go, I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much for watching my video. If you found it helpful, please do give it a thumbs up, which helps it in the algorithms, and give this video a like, and go ahead and sub to the channel if you feel like you might be able to benefit from it. I do have lots of crochet tutorials coming up, but not only that, macrame and general DIYs. So hit that bell if you want to be notified when upcoming videos post. And for all my absolute beginners, stay tuned for one last tip. Okay, so for all my absolute beginners out there, especially my ones who are struggling, I just wanted to share this t-shirt yarn with you. This is the BERNAT Maker Home Deck t-shirt yarn, and it is the absolute best for beginners. It is like a tubular shaped t-shirt yarn, so the stitch definition, as you can see, is very, very prominent. It's paired here with the 6.5 millimeter crochet hook, which is also a size K, 10.5. It's perfect, guys. I'm telling you, they are a match made in heaven. You can see everything you're doing. The yarn doesn't split, and it just makes crocheting a dream. This was the game changer for me as a beginner, and I highly, highly recommend it for any absolute beginner crochet artist. I just wanted to throw that in there in case I have anybody who is kind of on the struggle bus with learning crochet. And if you are interested, there is a link in the description box below for both this yarn and this hook. All right, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.